What is up, guys? Welcome back to the Zach and Pat Show. I'm Zach.
I'm Pat.
This is the show about manhood, fatherhood, entrepreneurship, and the mentality it takes to be successful at those things. And we'll probably sprinkle in some helpful real estate advice too, because that's what Pat and I do. You know, guys, life can be tough. We can go through some things and struggle at times, but this is the show to let you know that you're not alone. So if you're someone out there going through any of these things, this is the show for you.
All right, guys, let's talk about something we all need. High quality, comfortable, stylish clothing that actually holds up in real life. Whether you're grinding at work, hitting the gym, or just hanging out, the Normal brand has you covered. I've been rocking their gear, and let me tell you, it's not your average clothing line. They've nailed it perfect with the perfect blend of durability, comfort, style, whether it's a go-to rugged Henley, a hoodie, a button-down that doesn't make you feel like a stiff, the Normal brand is where it's at. The best part is you can support the show while upgrading your wardrobe. Just hit the link in the description below. Check out their collection. Trust me, once you try it, you'll wonder why you didn't do it sooner. The Normal brand. Made for real life, built to last. Now go check them out.
Shout out to our friends over at Captain Beard Co. Guys, if you are looking for beard care products, shampoo, conditioner, body wash, give Captain Beard Co. a try. They have this unbelievable beard butter, balm, oils, and then it smells amazing. Ladies, if you're looking for something for your men as a gift to help with their grooming, check them out. Also, if you guys are looking to just set the mood one night, candles, unbelievably smelling candles, made with all natural ingredients here locally to St. Louis. Give them a shot. Also, while you're there, use the promo code Zach and Pat for 10% off your purchase.
Hey there, guys. We really appreciate you checking out the Zach and Pat Show. If you can obviously tell, we are a newer podcast, but one way we're really trying to grow the show is trying to get up the amount of subscribers we have. So, if you're watching the show and you're getting something out of it, we'd really appreciate it if you could click that subscribe button. That would help us out a ton. Please click that button. And now back to the show.
We have a very special guest in studio today. She has a crazy resume here. So I'm going to let her kind of expand on it and tell us, a little bit about her for you guys out there that don't know her. But she's got a long career in broadcasting and entertainment. The great and powerful, the
great and powerful stuff.
Monica Adams.
How are you guys?
Good. Thank you for coming on. We were really excited about this.
I appreciate. I've seen these guys in the hallway, and I'm like, "Hi, guys!" They're always so friendly, which is all I care about in life, right? So I end every one of my shows just talking about how you can be anything you ever want to be, but the greatest thing you can be is kind, and I will give that to you. You are every single morning I see you.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
I appreciate that. Well, Monica, for the people out there that don't know you, can you give us kind of a brief summary of, kind of who you are and what you've done over the last however many years?
Yeah, I started in radio 32 years ago because I keep forgetting. I keep forgetting to add on the 2 years because when I finally stepped away, it's been 2 years. But radio for 12 years, and then I did television for 18, all in St. Louis. I should say I started just outside of St. Louis in Festus, Missouri. Okay. And then DeSoto, my second job. And then I worked for WIL, which is a really incredible country station here in St. Louis. The legendary KMOX, it was heard all over the United States. And then I worked for the Fox and the NBC affiliate here in St. Louis. Wow. Love it and very blessed. But as you hear from a lot of people, or I'll ask the two of you, do you watch the news?
No. Not much anymore.
Okay.
No.
Do you have anybody that you know that does?
My parents.
Parents, probably.
My mom lives.
Even that gets more. Lives by it?
Oh, God.
Okay, so she's one of them that was watching.
Yeah.
But the numbers were down and down and down. And it just, I was getting up at 1:30 and 2 o'clock in the morning to go do this and anchoring at 4 a.m. Did traffic for a long, long time. Did entertainment news. Did fitness stories. I'm also a personal trainer and a life coach and was bringing that all together. I was pitching ideas of fashion because I was always known for my fashion. And I was like, let's do this. And it was always falling on deaf ears. And it was just, it gets disheartening, right? You just keep getting knocked down. And I left Fox for opportunities that didn't exist at Fox. So I went to NBC, and the NBC affiliate allowed me to do some stuff, but it was during COVID. So it was a very weird time. All of us broadcasting from home was strange. I major props for what we were able to do, but it was strange. And then it just always it started changing, and it's become a very negative field. And I am a very positive person like you two, and it was a disconnect. And so it was the greatest blessing really of my life that we broke down the negotiations and couldn't come to terms. And when your boss comes back and was like, that probably stung that we weren't able to come to terms. And I was like, no, you just gave me the greatest blessing of my life because it's time for me to go do it. And you guys know when you go and leap and do something like this, it's a grind.
100%.
Anybody that thinks, oh, podcast fun, there's
and
no
you're
big
just
deal.
gonna show up.
Just
and
talk.
It's going to be a success right
People
away.
are just going to
Yeah.
listen. And
Yeah.
I'm like,
Well, it's like you got to kind of have a game plan. Like you can't just go in and
Right.
just sit down and talk. Like, you know, because everybody like looks at shows like Joe Rogan or all
Yes.
these other popular podcasts where, you know, they're stand-up comedians or whoever, and they're just sitting down, you know, BSing with each other.
Right.
And, you know, it's like, okay, yeah, that works for them because
Yes.
they're
That's their
professional
jobs.
comedians
Like-
and they've already got a following, you
Right.
know, but like you're just a regular Joe Schmo off the street, you know, who's doing whatever, and you want to start a podcast and you've got no following, you know, I mean, me and Pat don't have any crazy following by any means, but you know, we've got our own little thing with our real estate clients here in you know, in our market, but you know, we're very small potatoes. So it's like, okay, well, we're going to start it. We're just going to keep doing it. And, you know, just like anything else in life, if you're consistent with it,
There
you
you
know,
go.
you're going to eventually see success.
And so the thing is, this is the life coach in me that hears this comes out. So you might say we're small potatoes, but you believe in what you're doing.
oh, absolutely.
Right? My whole thing is that's all that matters. Believe in what you're doing, be a good person, work hard, have integrity, and then watch what happens and watch the following. And then you guys put out great content. I've watched a lot of your shows and I love
Thank
what
you.
you're doing because, well, we'll get into this, but men need this. My big thing in doing my show has always been we got to get guys to talk. We've got to get you to communicate. And what a powerful thing that happens when other men see men say, hey, dude, I'm not okay.
Yeah.
And we need to talk about this. And then what happens with that? And the many legs that happens that it just continues to grow and grow and grow of, hey, did you hear Zach say this? Did you hear Pat say this? Hey, they're talking about fatherhood and they're talking about manhood. Yeah, sure, we want to be man's
right.
man,
it's not
but
about being the big tough guy.
No.
You know, I say that with a black eye.
I was going to say, what happened?
Jiu-jitsu.
Oh, I
you
thought
know,
so.
Yeah. I mean, it's just accidents happen. Caught an elbow on accident, you know, and then it's like getting worse too. Like I feel like every day it's like getting worse.
Honestly, it looks the same as when I saw you the other night.
Yeah, well, it's not improving.
Yeah, it's not. It hasn't gotten better.
See,
It's
and
not
if you
gotten
were in
worse.
television, then this is why I love being
Yeah.
real. If you were in television, they would be like, cover that
Oh,
up. Let's
cover it
give
up.
hair.
Yeah.
Let me give you some makeup. Zach'd be like, I'm not putting makeup on.
Well, I funny story. I did get a black eye like 2 weeks before our wedding. I came home. My wife was oh gosh. I like came home with the hoodie
She's
up.
like, all these wedding pictures.
100%. Oh god, she was in. But thankfully, you know, by the you know when the big day came, it was pretty much gone. But we still put a little makeup on it just to make sure. But you know, I mean, that was kind of a special circumstance. You know? So,
One and done.
yes, exactly. But yeah, like I was saying, it's not about being the big, you know, man. We say, you know, the show's about manhood, but it's not about being the big tough guy. You know, I mean,
It's
we do have-
redefining manhood
Right.
because there's that stigma that, you know, men don't have emotions, men don't show emotions. Men are just there to work and be big and strong and provide and support. Like those are those are parts of it. But
Yes.
I think, you know, in prior to this, we were texting but I mean, the emotional intelligence nowadays is so important.
Paramount.
And I think that's the biggest thing that we like talking about with all of this. And we keep talking about it. It's like, this is like therapy for us. Like every week we get to come in here and have therapy sessions and it's
Sure.
great.
Just to talk to people, get to learn from people like you. And, you know, how often do we just sit down across the table from someone, spend an hour and a half with each other and just talk
Yeah.
and not look at our phones and
Right.
not,
That's
you know,
huge.
really, it's huge.
Being
Nobody-
present.
You know, because like if we weren't doing a podcast right now, if I just said, hey, Monica, you want to go sit across the table from me and talk for an hour, you'd probably be like, well, why? You know, like maybe you'd say yes, but like it's like kind of an odd ask.
Right.
But hey, if we're gonna record it and like throw it on the
Throw it out
internet,
to-
you know,
Exactly.
like people are down. You
Yes,
know? So
yes.
it's just funny how this is like kind of turned into what this is. And you know, I mean, you know, it's not I mean, even if people weren't listening, I'd still do it.
Same.
You know?
It is because, as you said, it is therapy, and you've got one person right next to you, and then you guys would talk about it, and then all of a sudden you go and talk to other friends. Hey, you know what we talked about? Oh, wow, I've been feeling that way, but no one's ever said anything.
Yeah.
You know, we say this a lot that I think the breakthrough happened within the last 5 years during the pandemic,
Mhm.
because suddenly it was like a new lease on life of everybody being able to say mental health. Even saying those two words used to be taboo. You're like, what? I'm depressed. I have anxiety, whatever. Oh, wow. So do I. But you're okay to say it, and you don't think you're going to get backlash or people are going to laugh at you or bully you.
Right.
Suddenly it became, it's okay, it's okay, it's okay. So as a life coach, there were more and more people that came to me to say, okay, I'm going to put this out there now. And I don't feel like I'm going to be judged because everyone's talking about it. And then now we look at the younger generation, and it's disheartening to see. I mean, you look at suicide numbers for how young it's getting, guys. It's really scary, which is why we need more of this, more talking about it, and more fathers talking to their sons about it. Because that's who really scared me was, okay, we looked generations ago and men did not hug their children. They didn't say, I love you. There were no emotions. Don't cry. Suck it up, right? Whether it's on the ball field or it's in life. And I just thought, wow, that's detrimental to their health.
Oh, for sure.
Right. And now we're
Absolutely.
kind of seeing the ramifications of that. I
Yes.
mean, like you said, I mean, suicide is, I mean, those numbers are way up. I think we pulled the stat up on the show a few weeks back, but it was more men have died from suicide lately than women have died from breast cancer.
Yeah, that's
Isn't that wild?
just sit with that for a second and let
That's
that marinate.
crazy.
Yes, it is.
You know, like,
You just gave me chills. That's
like that's a wild statistic.
And it's gotta
I'm not
change.
trying to like, downplay breast cancer by any means, but like that the numbers are right there.
Yep.
Like, that's crazy.
yes.
Especially with, on the mental health side, that like breast cancer is something that just comes out of nowhere that you don't have any control of.
Right.
We have control of this situation. We have the ability to control the mental health of the suicide. Like we can talk to people. There's resources out there. There's things that are available for people that they can go to and get the help that they need to help fix them and get them through this tough time. But I mean, I don't know. It's sad. Fortunately, I have not lost anybody to suicide. But you hear about it all the time, and I'm sure, especially with your husband being in law enforcement, I'm sure that he has to deal with that in a whole nother realm. I mean, we had Colin on last week. That comes out this week, and we're excited about that episode. But that was pretty much all we talked about the entire show was mental health.
Well, and it gets scary. A lot of people will ask me that. And being the wife of a lieutenant with the St. Louis County Police, and when we first met, he was a sergeant. Actually, when we first started dating, he was patrolman, right? And then he works his way up through the ranks. My family and my friends all look at it and go, "Oh, we're glad he's not out there on the streets as much, right?" And I said, well, knowing him, he likes to lead, right? And he likes to teach. And so I do know that when those calls come in that he's out there. A lot of people here in St. Louis will probably remember the Blake Snyder incident. Well, my husband was the one on the scene within seconds of that happening. So you wrap your brain around that and go, well, that could have been him. Like,
Right.
he could have beat Blake to the call. And,
You just gave me chills.
Well, you have to know that day, this was a hard day for me. That day, I was doing traffic at Fox, and we get the call, and it's like mayhem in the newsroom. And all of a sudden, they come running out, and you see all this happening behind you. And as soon as I get done with the report and we go to a break, they're like, there was a police officer shot. And so I turn my head, like slow motion happens, guys, and I'm like, you hear that period. It doesn't matter where it is, city, county, or another state.
It's not him. I hope,
No, right? And so I come out and I go to the assignment desk and they're all crazy and talking. I'm like, what precinct? What precinct? What district? And nobody's answering me. And I'm like, guys. And they're thinking that I want to know for traffic, like getting people around. And finally, and I'm always even keel, I finally put my hand down on the desk and I'm like, guys, what district? And they look at me and all of a sudden it was like the entire newsroom, like slow motion, and they get it. Like,
oh
Yeah.
yeah. And then they say the district and it's his. And I go, that's my point. Like, that's what I thought I heard. And now I'm texting my husband. Now it feels like hours. He's not getting back with me. I'm calling, I'm texting. I'm like, you have got to respond to me. Tell me you're okay. 26 minutes of my life felt like hours.
I couldn't even imagine.
They're sending reporters out to the scene, and I said, when that photographer gets there, I need, because we have our monitors right, but when they get there, show me the scene. I need to find my husband. And so I'm just like, everyone said that they watched that morning and they knew. Before we were even talking about it, they knew something was wrong. You could see it in my face, like I'm probably ghostly white, right?
Sure.
And so our photographer had just arrived on the scene, and then at that point, ping, I get a text. And I'm like, oh, dear God. And he's like, it's not me. I'm okay. But then he ends up telling me, he's like, but he's dead. You guys are saying. And I said, he's dead? Like, what? They were keeping him alive for his wife. But I was like, he's like, don't report that yet. It's coming from me. And it was hard. It was the first time and last time. I would do it again, but it was, I was able to be in the procession. Boy, I'll tell you what, guys, that was chilling. But also it gave me hope, because that officers, and still to this day, feel like the entire world's against them.
Right.
But you watched that. I don't know if you saw that footage, but you watched that day, miles and miles and miles of people on overpasses lining the streets in honor of a fallen officer. And it gave me hope for the world again. And I kept looking at him. I said, I'm glad I'm in this car with you. I want you to see this. all you hear is the narrative of the news saying that everybody hates police. It's not true.
No, it's not.
Right.
I mean, I can't think of anybody that I know that like that's true.
Exactly.
It's just like this narrative that we hear.
Yep.
And it might not be my circle of people, but I don't come across it.
I don't either.
Does it exist? Sure.
Absolutely.
Sure.
Yeah, but it just seems like that's the narrative online.
Correct.
And it's that's got to change.
I think it is. I see it more like, are we ever going to go back to officer friendly? And some people understand that, some people don't. But are we going to get back to that? I don't know. I would love to. Career days in school when they would come in, you would sit there, police officer.
Right. He's
Now,
got the cool job,
right?
Yeah.
Well, right. Now it's moms and dads saying, don't go into police.
Right.
Like they're so scared because you pull up on a normal, I don't know if y'all remember, but there was a story of an officer pulling up on a flat tire, right? Trying to help because it's what they do, and they got shot.
Yeah.
Now they have to pull up and assume that everyone's got a gun. It's the world has become crazy, and the number I don't know if you saw recently, but just how little officers we have in St. Louis City.
Oh yeah.
Oh, we
how
were talking
short-handed
about that
they are.
recently. Yeah, we were talking about Colin about how short staffed they are, and
But then they get blamed for not showing up, and I'm like, they don't have enough officers to show up at everything.
Well, and we were talking about that, and it's just all my buddies that were Metro have moved out to the counties.
Mhm.
It's safer. It's
Pays
better
better.
pay.
Correct.
Conditions are better. They're treated better. Like I mean, I don't blame them. I would.
I always get asked the question, how are you okay with being first it was the girlfriend and the wife of an officer, and I said, I have incredible faith that he will be delivered back home to me. But we do know that it doesn't always happen. And if it wouldn't, knock on wood, I hope that, yes, he will always be here and he'll be able to retire and everything will be fine with him. If it didn't, I would have to come to terms with it. Obviously, it would be difficult, but I would know that he was a true hero, because they are. Any first responder in any military, those are our brave heroes.
Absolutely.
And they don't get enough credit. They certainly don't make enough money.
Right.
I mean, that never makes sense.
That's I think that's the barrier. I mean, quite honestly, like I think that's a huge barrier, that the reason that we're short staffed on it.
Yes.
You're
they
gonna
should be
put your
paid.
life on the line for 40 grand.
Yeah.
I mean,
Like
it's ridiculous.
No way. Like I always thought, I think we would have so many more opportunities if the pay was, halfway decent. It
Right.
just seems like like Pat said, putting your life on the line for 40 grand, like,
Who wants to do that?
Yeah, and especially nowadays, like, good luck living on 40.
Yep.
It's not, you can do it obviously, but it's not, you're not living a comfortable life.
Right.
And, for you putting your life on the line every day, like you'd expect a lot more.
I mean, especially in a city like St. Louis, where you constantly hear like, "Hey, this is the most dangerous city in America," and you're like, Colin was like, "Yeah," he's like, "It's not every day that you come in and you're like, what job do you go to, and you're seeing dead bodies on a daily basis." Like,
See, and then going back to what we had said before about, depression, anxiety, suicide rates, when they don't put that uniform on anymore, that's when we really have to be worried about them.
Right.
Because this just becomes a habitual thing. They just know, they go through the motion. Then they either get out of it altogether for a myriad of reasons, or it's when they retire. And I used to liken this to a professional athlete or a CEO or a president. When they're stripped down of what they feel is their identity, especially for men.
Yeah.
That's when you all need to talk.
oh,
100%.
absolutely.
Because you see it with, everything, professional athletes,
Yes.
fighters, all these things, like you tie your identity around, I am a pro football player, I am a fighter, I am a president, I am whatever. And then the second that you're not that, you're like, what am I now? I'm just a regular guy, or I'm just a dad now, just a dad. But it's like, no, you have to kind of, that's your new identity. Like,
Correct.
surround yourself with that and be, take everything you can there and, and grow on it. And
But not even just that, but like the aspect of it, like everybody. I mean, it's not. If you were to ask me what is it that you miss most about baseball, I'm gonna be like the locker room, like hanging out in
That
the locker room,
camaraderie, that
exactly.
fraternity feel.
Yeah, exactly. Like you're a part. Like you're in that locker room. You're part of an elite, small number of people that made it to where we were at, going through the same grind. I mean, we talk about it with jiu-jitsu. Like, we're close with those guys because we're doing something hard and battling with each other back and forth for as long as we're doing it. And we get close to those people. And that's the thing, is once you're out of it, you're alone.
Right.
And it's like, well, what do I do? Like, who can I call? Who can I talk to? Who can, like, even if it's just as a distraction to like, which is not good. But that distraction is what helps a lot of people, especially I know.
Cope.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's all about finding community. It doesn't have to be, jiu-jitsu, but it can be anything. To finding a great CrossFit gym, finding a great, just a community to be a part of, a
Yep.
run club, whatever,
Yep.
just do something where you're with other people. And, and I do think doing something hard together I think that there's something to that really helps bond people.
I agree.
You
That
know?
you and that's the thing. So whatever you came from, right? It's jujitsu, it's baseball, whatever. Doesn't matter what person does in life, but it is being able to have the transfer when you come out of it, that you don't just sit there and then don't talk.
Mm-hmm.
People turn to alcohol or whatever addiction, and then they get lost in it, and then they're so far into it, and it becomes, well, how do I get out of this? So if there is okay, I know this is starting to come to an end. I love to erase the word just, by the way. So you are a father, first and foremost, or you're a good human being, or whatever it is. My life coaching, I always ask this, like if I do motivational speaking, I will get in front of a big audience and I will say, who's the most important person in the equation of your life?
Me.
Okay, great answer. Most people don't say that. They're like, I know you want me to say me, but my husband, my kids, and I'm like, they are, but how can they be taken care of if you're not taken care of first? And think about the whole adage of being on a plane, right? You have a kid, you have to put the mask on yourself before you can take care of them. You got to breathe in the oxygen. It's hard because people think it's egotistical or they're going to be called this or that. And it's no, you got to be okay, Pat. You got to be okay, Zach. Then if he's not okay, but you're okay first, he will feed off of your energy of you being better. And it's that cyclical effect of, oh, okay, I get this. Once people can actually transfer that in their minds, watch what happens in your life. And how much better your relationships become, how much better you become. But it's a daily practice of it.
Right. You can't pour into others if your cup's empty.
Correct.
Yep. Well, Monica, how did you get into all this stuff originally? Like, how'd you get into the entertainment, the broadcasting and everything? Like, was that something you always wanted to do from an early age, or like, how did it all start?
I actually, and I still do, I have a deep love for medicine. And so I was studying sports medicine, physical therapy. I was an athlete my whole life. And the way I really got deep into, my ultimate goal was to be an orthopedic surgeon. So I was taking steps for that. And I went away to college my first year, didn't like the first college, transferred to Mizzou. And so I was studying medicine there. So most people, when they hear I went to broadcast, are like, oh, the J school. And I said, actually, no, I wasn't going into journalism at all.
Yeah, because Mizzou has a really good.
They have a phenomenal one. And I actually have interns getting ready to start with me that you'll see around the
Okay.
hallway that are from Mizzou, which I love having that connection back. My time at Mizzou is the most pivotal time in my life. So when I'm 19, I'm playing soccer. I was also playing for the Junior Olympics. All this was happening for me from an athletic standpoint. Then I'm deep into, oh my gosh, I love this, sports medicine, athletic training, working with athletes and everything. And then I have a massive blood clot. Sends me back home for 2 years. Haven't checked in a while, so someone can site check this, but it was and still may be the largest blood clot in medical history.
Whoa.
That you
Really?
would never know if I didn't tell you. Yeah, and it literally changed my life on so many levels. Who I am as a human being, the way I attack the world, the way I don't let others have power over me, the way I don't let others get to me because I know that life is so precious. So yeah, I had come back home. I'm going to it's a long story, but I'm going to shorten it down to so many levels of what happened. I was in the hospital at University Hospital in Mizzou, and they released me in 45 minutes and said that I had a pinched nerve cutting off circulation, which by the way is not medically possible. And I asked the doctor like 4 or 5 times, say that again, said it again, said it again, said it again. And then finally looked at me like, why do you keep asking me? And I was like, I don't want to question him. He's the doctor,
Right.
new doctor, but I'm still training. And I was like, I got to get out of here because that's not possible. And so he's like, you can leave. And I said, how? And he goes, well, how'd you get in here? I said, I was taken by an ambulance literally across the street from my dorm. That's how bad it had gotten. So I went across the street. My friend was there to pick me up and releases me. He gives me crutches because I can't walk now and gives me 800 milligram ibuprofen and says that I can go back to school on Monday and play again in a week. And if I had followed that, I'd be dead. There's no probably. I would be dead. Every doctor has said this. So I come back home to go to my chiropractor. And I know a lot of people in the medical field go off on chiropractors. I'm going to tell you right now, that man nailed it visually. He looked and he's like, what did they say? And I told him, he goes, honey, that's not possible. I'm like, I know. That's what I was told. And he goes, huh? And he looks at my legs. He goes, looks like a blood clot to me. I'm like, no, it's just my back. I just hurt my back. I'm like, get me back to the game. So he goes in. Smartest thing that man did that day was not adjust me.
Yeah,
Because that what he was thinking may have been wrong, right? And you could see in his face, he didn't say, can you go get a second opinion? but I think he was trying to get me to read between the lines, and we didn't. I mean, he did his thing. We left, went back home. My mom put me in the tub that had these like little jets that you could like, acting like a hot tub. Got into it. 20 minutes later, I got out and I had a massive lump that had formed on the inside of my leg because I do have a clot that we don't know about, and all it did was break it up. My mom screams for my dad and takes me to the hospital up in North County. We went to Christian Northeast because we lived in Florissant. And I go in there, and the crazy thing is it's 9:00 at night, but they take a 60-picture CAT scan, and the radiologist is not there to read it, so they fax it to his house. Well, we all know faxes back then.
Right.
It's not a clear picture.
Right.
And so they admit me and say, we may not know for another day, week, month, year. We may never know, but we're going to keep trying to figure it out. And all I keep thinking in my head now, after all these years, is a chiropractor literally looked at me and said
Right.
it. And you guys can't, that's crazy to me. They came back in the next morning and still didn't know. He no sooner walks out, he comes running back down the hallway and says, don't move. And I was like, very funny. And I used to play around with this doctor, like, we had a great relationship together. And he's like, he hands me a bedpan, don't move. Because I was like, I got to go to the bathroom, doc. And he's like, don't
Right
move.
there, yeah.
Right? He's like, you have a massive blood clot and we're taking you into special procedures. So that moment, I want you to think about that. When you're told that kind of information, what do you do with that? How do you consume that?
Right.
Yeah.
It's
My mom's like, you have always been the eternal optimist. She's like, I saw fear in you briefly. She kept the fear. I got rid of it and was like, fix me.
Yeah.
All I kept thinking was, get me back to school, get me back to my life, get me back to my game. And my mom was obviously pretty worked up and fearful. I more so felt sad for her because here they are wheeling her daughter out with like literally in seconds. And I just kept thinking, oh my gosh, you got to help my mom.
Yeah.
And so they take me and I was in intensive care for another 2 weeks and then a regular room and then monitored in St. Louis for 2 years. Couldn't go back to Mizzou.
wow.
But here's the big part of the story. 3 days into the hospital, 3 days into intensive care, they tell my mom and dad, she's going to die today. So
What?
think about that in life. So my mom takes that information from the doctor and says, do you have anything else to say? Not my daughter, not today. My dad looks at the doctor and takes what he says.
This
like-
gospel.
Yes.
Oh man.
Right? Like most people would. And then he looks at my mom like, almost like, don't disrespect the doctor, right? And she's like, do you have anything else to say? And he's like, Mrs. Adams, I need you to listen. Your daughter's going to die. Her clot is right next to her heart. There's no way, definitively that she's going to make it. And she says back to him again, do you have anything else to say? Not my daughter, not today. And my dad's looking at her like, Jackie. And she's like, I'm going to leave. And so she goes out and she's got tears in her eyes when she walks into my intensive care room. So I can tell something's wrong with her. And I was like, what's wrong? And she's like, oh, honey, I'm just, you're going through so much. She was told, don't say anything to her because you got to keep her spirits high. In fact, I'm not told this story for 2 years
Oh wow.
because I always dismiss it as though, no big deal.
Yeah.
Like they fixed
Yeah,
me,
they
right?
fixed you. Yeah.
And then she finally goes, I need you to sit down. I need you to understand what happened that day. And she's like, you were not supposed to be here. And I said, or I was. And
Right.
she's like, oh my gosh, what a transfer of the way you think at life. And I said, he could have taken me or whatever your beliefs are in life. I could have had my life end that day. What was the reason? And from that day forward, guys, I have forever said, I was kept here for some greater purpose, and I'm just going to continue to do the work that comes to me, whether that's life coaching, whether that's personal training, whether that's stepping away and leaping. And from the entrepreneur side, let's do this, but let's provide positive to the world instead of waking them up to the negativity of the news. Let's teach people that every breath in your lungs is a blessing. I know at any point how quickly life can be taken away. And I don't know. I mean, other people are, and it's hard because people will hear the story going, well, my kid was taken or whatever. I don't know those answers. None of us know why.
Right.
All I know is every doctor that was a part of that. I had students from all these universities coming in and doing studies on me in some of my hardest times in those next couple of weeks. But I got what they were learning from it. And the whole time me watching that, what I was learning from it, then what was I going to do with that? How was I going to take that? And so to take this long, it's like I said, it's an even longer story, but to wrap it back up, I take all my electives to transfer back to Mizzou. And for the heck of it, I take a broadcasting class and the rest is history,
Wow.
which is crazy. But my mom's like, I told you, if you listen to your mom, I always believed that you needed to do something that you either spoke or you wrote. And she's like, I told you, you always do that. You did that really well when you were little. And then all of a sudden it all came back to me. And I was like, okay, interesting. But I still use my sports medicine background and all that in my personal training. So I use them both because people usually ask me, like, which one do you like better? I love them both. That's why I do them both still to this day. But crazy, powerful story. but that is my story. And so I look at every part of my life and it all goes back to 19.
That's crazy.
So
It's awesome.
wow, amazing. Well, I mean, you've lived through the evolution of media from radio to now digital platforms. Do you think what's the biggest change in everything, and do you think people trust the media now?
No, and it just depends on what network you watch, right? So if someone's watching, and they have to understand this, if someone's watching Fox, is it Fox owned and operated, or is it an affiliate? Back during, well, let's go back to Ferguson. During Ferguson, we had to actually take those mic flags off because they would look at Fox and then have the narrative of conservative side, right? The Republican side or the right, whatever you want to think. And there was all this hate. And so for the reporter's own safety, you would just have a naked mic with no flag on it whatsoever. You even had to watch having a light on. I mean, it was a crazy time period. But then the same thing, it could be, okay, if you've got NBC, then you're a liberal. Not necessarily, right? Yeah. But now it has become, is anything really news anymore? Or is it whatever narrative they want you to push? That's how it's become. And so who could you trust? People don't trust the media anymore. So that was like, well, why be a part of this? Right. No one wants to watch it. They don't want to wake up to negativity. They want some hope. They're not getting it from that. Those positive stories we would do were few and far between. It needs to be more, or more of a balance of it. But how do people consume anything news-wise? It's on their phones. Yes. And it's short, right? But if they want more and they're seeking it out, that's why we do longer form. Right. And I would be shocked if you don't have guests in here that constantly say, thank you for giving me more than 2 minutes to tell my story.
Yeah.
You can't do it in 10 minutes.
Well, that's the thing. Everybody's like, oh, I'll keep it short. I'm like, no,
don't.
Go long. Yeah.
No, we got plenty of time here.
Yeah.
Know? And it's like, that's the frustrating thing about, the news. Anytime I watch any sort of like regular TV now, I'm just like baffled by the amount of commercials.
Yes.
And you're just like, oh my gosh. Yeah. Like they get 5 minutes to talk and then it's 10 minutes of commercials. And you're just like, and that's, I think that's why I originally started like listening to podcasts originally. I was like, oh, they just keep going. Like I don't have to like wait for commercials or anything. Like they just go the whole time.
Yep. We'll have people left and right and they're like, okay, do we have to go? Like I go, stop looking at your watch. Yeah. Keep talking. Tell your story. Let's keep going. But I think they're so used to if they were blessed to have any attention by the media at all, they knew it was, okay, I got to talk so fast to try to get all this information in because 2 minutes is up. If you're lucky, you got 3 to 5 minutes, but there's so much that needs to be told. Or if you were, and I will say this, there's a true art to storytelling in that media that I came from, because you have to consume all of that information in your interview, all the footage you shoot, come back, edit it all together, and take it all down to a minute 45, minute 50 if you're lucky. And you're just like, how do I do this? That is a true art of writing and storytelling. And there are some incredible storytellers, but I always was like, but I know there's more to that. Like, I want to hear more. Right. That's why I'm so glad that some of the true great storytellers that are still in the media, they do now have a separate podcast. They're allowed to. We were not. Really? No.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, keep the long form of it, keep the whole interview, but just, you can condense it down into the reels now that's essentially what we do.
Yes.
Yes. We just give you, I look at them as like, just like little advertisements to go watch the full thing.
Yes. Here's a little tease for you.
Yeah,
did we get you? Well, then here's the whole thing.
Here's the whole hour and a half, whatever it is.
Yeah. And break it up and consume it in 15 minutes if you have to, because we all know everybody's busy. Yes.
That's what I do. I listen to podcasts every day and it's like, it'll take me sometimes 2 days to get through one, or whatever. It's like, because every time I'm driving, I throw it back on. Okay, catch another 15, 20 while I'm going to pick the kids up or, whatever it is.
Yep.
And so you're going to get through it eventually. And it's fun to get through. I look forward to like long drives. Cause it's like, ooh, I get to,
I can hear the whole thing.
Yeah. I got this, I'm right in the middle of this one. This one's getting good, and so I look forward to, I just love consuming them. It takes me a few days to finish some episodes. Cause a lot of ones I'll listen to are 3 hours sometimes, and it takes me a few days.
Well, and it serves you better. That's the whole thing. I always come back and I will always go, all right, how does that work for you? Or how does that serve you? Or how does that fuel you? Right. So if it was, I used to do this, and people would laugh at an audience and I would go, I want you to understand something. I want you to know how much power you give to a news anchor. And they're like, what do you mean? And I said, think about this. I don't care whether it's 5 a.m., 6 a.m., 7 a.m., whenever, because everybody's habit, right? They'll go and they would, in the past, turn the news on. Or if it's radio, turn it on. In the first 10 minutes, it's never good. I'm just going to tell you that, what we would call the A block. was never good. There's never anything positive that comes out of that opening block. The fun stories or what's happening in your neighborhood always was buried either later in the half hour, and then it just resets itself, and then you hear the negative part of the news again, and then your happiness comes right before the top of the hour, right? So here's what happens. If you're so mad, okay, just think about this. Anybody with kids or spouse, dogs, I don't care, whatever's in your home, here's what happens. Let's use 6 a.m. You tune in for weather, traffic maybe, then all of a sudden the bad news comes, and then you start feeling tense, and you're thinking, why am I getting so angry? Well, you're angry at what's happening in the world. You have so much anger, you finally are like, I'm done. And you realize where the anger is coming from and you turn it off. But it's already done its damage to you. It's kind of like a poison that has seeped into your blood is how I always look at it. Now, if that isn't how you started your day, and you started with something like this or our show, positivity, hope, inspiration, light, you're like, wow, I'm in a good mood. If something happens, you step on a dog toy and twist your ankle, you take it a little bit easier than if you are in such a ticked off state, right? So I would say, think about how this happens. You turn it off. Your husband, boyfriend, girlfriend, wife, spouse, doesn't matter. Whoever it is says something and you fly off the handle because you're already in a bad state. Your kids do something, you go off on them. Dog, you're mad, you leave the house. You get in the car. Somebody cuts you off. The whole road rage thing. You're in an elevated state of anger. You look at a billboard, you don't like it. Somebody on the radio says something, you don't like it. You get to work, your coworkers, you see where I'm going with this?
Yeah.
But you are in a horrible state, bad day altogether. You come back home and you can hear it in me. You're exhausted. And it all started by what we did to you in the morning. I'm telling you, that's how I look at it. And that's how I break a lot of things down. And I'm like, stop consuming negativity. Watch what happens when you start your day with meditation, prayer, yoga,
Exercise.
workout,
Something.
whatever it is, then get away from the chaos and the drama and the toxicity and the negativity of the world. If that's what you hang around, if that's the friends that you have, it's never going to change until you start breaking that habit.
Right.
It's crazy, but I'm telling you, it's true.
Yeah, it's totally.
You just have to shift.
Totally agree. I mean, I resonate with all that. Now, when you were in traditional media, now did you feel like the pressure of like pushing narratives, or how did did you feel like this pressure to say things a certain way? I'm just not exactly sure how it works.
Mm-hmm. Yes, with the last station I was at, I would come in and read some of the stories. Now I understand there's a lot of hands that go into before you ever hear one story, next story, next
Sure.
story. There's so many incredible people working overnight and writers, etc. But then you come in and ultimately you're looking, and then you're editing things like, hey, this isn't how I would say it. I would say it this way. But some of it was, this isn't even true. That's not coming out of my mouth. And I would change some things. And there's some people that would call me on like, hey, that was changed. And I said, it was changed because that's not accurate. And that will not come out of my mouth. Because understand, although I just said there's so many levels of people that had their hand in that one story, it doesn't matter. To you at home, it is, Monica just said that.
Right.
Right.
Yeah,
And
they
now
don't
I'm
see
going
the
to
back
bully
end of it.
Monica on social media, right? I'm going to just, I would come and I would see all this stuff going, see, it all comes back on us. Whoever that person is that's delivering, you either trust them or you don't trust them, and you'll never trust them again when you come back and you're like, you're just pushing your narrative.
Well, it's
So
like
I
that-
do believe that's the way it's going.
Well, it's like that clip that you see, from, I forgot who posted it, but it's like one news network, but it's all of their outlets across the country.
Yeah.
And it's literally every single, they push all the different things on there and they say the exact same thing across
Yes.
the country. And I'm
Yeah.
just like, what? Like, so it's just, they're just robots are just there to read a script. But it's cool to hear that you would, and this shows your integrity, that you would sit there and edit this stuff so you're not pushing that same narrative.
Either that or I would go, that one's not going to be read by me. It's going to have to go to somebody else. I won't do it. But I think that was the writing on the wall that they didn't like that.
Yeah.
And so I started to see that, and then we would get pushed back, and then it was, I'm not doing this anymore. And I literally, somebody asked me, and I never want to say never in life, but somebody said, would you ever go back? I have no desire to go back into the news business the way it is. If there ever was a change of the way I think a network should be, which is, we know you know what's coming, we're not going to start your day that way.
Yeah.
And then it would be, okay, I want to be the one that delivers the positive news, which is again, but why? Why go back to
Why
that?
do that when
Correct.
You're
when you have
already,
this.
You already have your
Yes.
thing, and it's your own, and you don't have all these other producers and all, like, as
Right.
if I've never been in a news set. I guess I have once or twice, but there's just so many people there, and
Yeah.
like I feel like there's so many hands in the pie, and like whereas You know,
Right.
a show like yours, it's you, your producer. You know, I mean, how many people are really involved in your show? I mean, it's a handful, I'm sure, but like I'm sure it's a lot less than
What
you
it
know,
was.
What it was.
It is.
right?
It is. And then this is the thing that we talked about at the very beginning, right? So podcasts, talk shows, whatever. It's not easy. You all need to understand that. These guys work very, very hard. You've got, if you're lucky, but that's, that's when you've got these big conglomerates, the networks, that have the ability to have all these different employees. You try to do all of that with a skeleton team, right? But we're doing it. And what I started the show not doing any kind of news. And then I started going, well, I don't want us to act like it's not going on in the world. I don't want to talk about it unless it is, what can we do to change it?
Right.
I do news you can use. And normally it's what we used to call water cooler talk, right? You would go into work and you would go to the water cooler and you would, hey, did you hear Monica talking about this today? So a lot of it's fun, or a lot of it has to do with, financial, your children, your family, whatever. These are things you can use. And then I do some sports news. We've got an aspiring meteorologist that does weather for us every Monday and Friday. So this kid's he'll be starting sophomore year next year. He's incredible. He's got the eyes of Fox National, the Weather Channel National. He was on the Tamron Hall show, and he's from our area. And I'm so proud of him. I can't
awesome.
wait to see but I was like, okay, I get people need weather.
Right.
But if they're watching outside of our area, I'll always say, stick with us for a second. I'm always going to be here for the people who made me. St. Louis, Missouri, Illinois. And then, hey, if you're in Texas or you're in Italy or whatever, just bear with us for a second. Or tell us what the weather is and where you are. Or give us stories that are happening so that we can talk as a community. But it's, okay, let's not act like these things aren't going on. But let's just not one story after the next story after the next story just all be negative. So yes, it's fun to be able to say, I'm going to produce the show I want the way I want to. I can direct the show. I can guarantee you that the television stations hate that we're all able to do all of this, because all it's doing is taking away
From eyeballs off them.
Oh yeah, eyeballs, and of course from the financial standpoint, that's why you hear everything in the news. I mean, there was a Forbes article that talked about what we're doing right now, guys, as a multi-billion-dollar industry. And when I saw that, I'm like,
Why am I
well,
not in?
what?
Why am I not doing it?
And that's why I did Leap. That's there. I mean, so for so many reasons, it more so was I want to bring to the table what I think serves people every morning better. And I'm live every morning at 7 a.m.
That is crazy. to
Yeah.
me. That is-
But it's all I knew though, right? So
Yeah.
when
Yeah,
I,
it's
when I
what
was
you've
in
been
radio,
doing,
it was
so.
morning radio. When I was in TV, it was morning. And people are like, you could have slept in after all these years. And I was like, I could have, but the smart businesswoman to me was, I'm going to pull them away and let them watch over here.
It's so cool.
Yeah.
Man, I think it's so cool. So it's Monday through Friday, 7 a.m.
So Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. And then we also started a Wet Your Whistle Wednesday. So we do in the afternoon, there's a local winery that has us come out. And sometimes it'll be that, or there's other liquor stores, whatever, that might want to have distributors that want to talk about bourbon, or now tequila's the new thing.
yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah, we had the owner of Una Vida.
Yes.
in here a couple-
that's the thing now. And I'm like, tequila, really?
Yeah.
Well, after that conversation we had with them, it's like, okay, you know what? I've started trying some darker tequilas,
Yeah.
and it's not far off from bourbon
From
or
bourbon?
more scotch.
Okay.
I would say it's more like a scotch than a bourbon.
Okay.
But yeah.
Yeah,
So-
I have a friend that they're really, really into it. And they're like, you'll understand when you taste good tequila that you've had really bad tequila for a long, long time. And that's why you don't like tequila. I'm
Right.
like, all right.
Yeah, he said
I'm open
something
to it.
similar.
Yeah.
And we got into like all the different ways that tequilas are made, and like how, because apparently, I mean, it's only like just a few ingredients, right? Like,
Very
it's
few
like-
ingredients, and then it's just how long you age it.
Yeah, and like how and how there's like 3 different ways to cook it, or not cook it, but you know what I mean.
Distill it.
Distill it,
Yeah.
or whatever. So yeah, it was very, very interesting. I knew nothing about tequila before that conversation, but that's like a perfect example of like, we have someone on and I legitimately learned something. Like,
Yeah.
Which I
learn
love.
something with every guest. And
Well,
it's
we
like,
should, I always say every single day we should be a student of life, right?
Absolutely.
And want to just absorb like a sponge and learn about this craft or learn about what I like. We started doing generational talk, and I was like, the greatest thing we can do in life is take somebody of a younger generation, mid-generation, older generation, and just listen. Right. So I had them, I went and spoke to this entrepreneurial symposium at St. Charles Community College. And there's like 250 students there. And it was so beautiful to watch them all just like glued, like eye to eye, just because they're wanting the information. Like that's what they all want to do now. They don't want to go and work for corporate America. They want to be an entrepreneur. So they're like, okay, asking all these questions. And I'm like, hey, get up on stage. Let me have like 5 of you finish this sentence. So now it's become the new thing that we're doing of, I wish this generation understood this, fill in the blank, about my generation. And I'm like, go ahead, do it. And so it's so cool and a lot of it's been like 18-year-olds or 21, 23, 25, 27-year-olds. Now I want to go the other way. Now I want the 40, 50, 60, 70 on up to say, okay, here's what I wish you understood about us. And then all we have to do is listen and then start talking, right? We go back to communication. If we do that, we have more respect in the world, which has got to happen.
What have you learned from some of those 18 to 20-year-olds?
They keep saying, and I agree with them, and I actually have not witnessed what I hear most people in life say, which is that they're entitled and they're lazy. It's all, I mean, they're being labeled like crazy. You're lazy, you're lazy. Think about that. Right. If you heard that when you were a young boy, well, I guess I'm lazy.
Yeah,
right.
Because you gave power to it.
Yeah.
Right? And I'm like, you can't give power to it. So I don't believe you're lazy. You're here today, and I've watched all of you like this. Like, you want all the information. You're writing feverishly down. So I do believe that you're going to take that. I watch my own interns that I've now hired. So I've got a 25-year-old director now, but he was my intern over a year ago. I have new interns coming in. I'm like, you never know. If you work hard, I might want to hire you. But what I want is I want you to show up on time. I want you, all I ever ask is that you give me your best and that you're a kind person, align with our mission, and watch what happens. So their big thing that they keep saying is, I wish people would understand that we do want to show up for work. We do want to work hard. I'm like, understand that there's a lot of you, but I think it goes back to what the media wants to say. The media wants to say that they're lazy, that they're entitled, and that they don't want to work. And yes, there's ghosting that takes place. And yes, I don't understand when some of them, but I believe it's a smaller percentage, show up to work and then don't show up again. So do those things happen? Do they break up in text? All those communication things do need to change.
But I feel like all that stuff's kind of, always
been there.
It's always been there, but now it's more available.
Yeah.
You know, it's like everybody's got a way to communicate. We're all so connected with our phones.
Yep.
You know, with social media, just with just being able, the ability to be able to call and text anyone from anywhere in the world at any time. Like, we're all way more
instant
connected.
gratification.
Yeah,
Yep.
it's what we're surrounded with. So, you know, I think it's kind of always been there, but like, I mean, obviously there's no way to know because we can't go back in time and give them phones.
Nobody gave it a voice back then.
Right. And so now it's just, it's more prevalent just because it's just all right here.
Yeah. There was one girl I thought it was interesting, and she's like, I know what I want to say, Monica. She said, I just wish that people understood that there doesn't have to be a timeline for everything. And I said, I need more context to that. And she's like, okay, for instance. And I just, in my head, it was smiling going, what she doesn't understand is this has always been there. She's like, well, for instance, I'm getting ready to go and be around family for the holidays. And I just wish that they understood I don't have to have the perfect job right now. And I don't have to be engaged. And I don't have to have, and I looked at her and she goes, why are you smiling? I go, honey, that has always been there. And she goes, seriously? And I said, absolutely. I go, I can go back to my mother's generation where, oh my gosh, if you weren't married when you were 25, you were an old maid, right? And she goes, are you serious? And I said, oh yeah. I'm like, they had to have kids already. And I said, here you are, you're 24, 25 years old. And think about that. And she's like, oh no, that would be crazy. I'm not even thinking about that. And I said, yes, but that's also a lot of the stories in the news of women wanting to establish themselves and waiting until later. And then, they're in their mid 30s and even approaching 40. And oh my gosh, I don't have a kid yet. What's going to happen here? Right. And she's like, oh, and I said, same thing. You get a new boyfriend, you surround yourself with, whatever the holiday may be. Everyone's going to go, when are you getting married? I remember when I got engaged and she goes, it happened to you. And I was like, it happened to me 10 years ago. Jim and I get engaged and they're like, when's the wedding? And I don't know. We literally just got engaged. When are you guys having kids? I'm like, holy cow.
Right.
Yeah,
yes.
Chill.
So when she heard that, then it was exactly what I wanted, which was us talking together and her having the realization of, oh my gosh, it's always been there. I'm like, see, this is all we need. Generational talk. Yeah. I love that. So that's a new segment I'm so happy about.
That's really cool.
That'd be a lot of fun, actually.
Yeah.
I'm definitely going to do that.
For sure.
Wow. It's amazing.
Well, I mean, you've successfully transitioned through multiple different platforms of media, and what is it that drives you to keep your authenticity?
That goes back to how I was raised, and I have to thank my mother and my father. I lost my dad when I was 24, but my mom is still one of my greatest role models, and she always said to me, even when I first started in the career, she's like, I'm going to ask you something, and I hope you always remember this question. Please tell me that you're never going to feel like you are too big for your britches. That's how she used to say it. And she's like, I don't care if you get to be Oprah status, never get too big for your britches. And I said, well, I won't, because this is how you raised me. And sure, it's very easy in the field that I was in. There are a lot of egos. And I understand everybody comes back and goes, well, don't we all have a little bit of an ego? A little bit's fine, but do you let it get to you? Are you conceited? I have a lot of confidence that, by the way, as a woman, for a lot of other women, it's so funny because you have women that are scared by that, or they want to be catty and say stuff about it. And it's like, why don't you want to learn more from
Right.
that? I learned confidence, but I learned that every single day. And I look at filters and masks and fakeness that people put out in the world. And I guess this comes from my life coaching. It doesn't serve anyone. So we can look back. I can go back to the generation thing again. You can look back forever ago. And I talked about this on my show actually the other morning. You can look at my mom's generation, and they would all look at these Hollywood actresses that had 23-inch waists, which just blows my mind.
That's insane.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I was like, did they, or were they sucked in with a corset? They were,
Right.
Yeah.
right? But it was the belief that that's how all women should look. Okay, so then you go magazine articles, looking at Hollywood films, and it's always women trying to measure up, measure. And what happens to that?
Eating disorders.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So many levels of things, not believing in yourself, all of this, I'm not worthy, I'm not good enough. But then it also happened to a lot of men. Men have to look this way, or you would get ridiculed for this, or in the ball field, you're not this, you're not that. It's all these things, and I always say it's like chaos. But then how do you consume it? You guys to think about that. If we can today start making people think and adjust and shift the patterns of the way they were. I don't care if you're a man or a woman, or you're an adult or you're a child. If you start to rip it down, be raw, and decide today's the day, I'm going to show the authentic side of me. I just did a show this morning and said, I'm coming on to you without any makeup on. I want you to, and I'm going to do this. And they're like, but I've done it before. Like, we have a tornado, and I'll be in pajamas, and I'll go into my closet with my dogs, and I'm like, how you all doing? And the numbers are going crazy, and people are like, oh my God, thank you for being so real. And I said, don't we need more of this though in life, especially from woman to woman? But I want it all sexes, all ages. The more real we are, the more we see that. And people, all of a sudden, it kind of goes back to us talking at the very beginning of the show about saying it's okay not to be okay, talking about mental health. The same applies of, hey, she is willing to put herself out there. I'm also allowing myself to be out there to be ridiculed, right? But I don't care. And it is such a powerful thing to get to of, I don't care if you don't like me. I don't care if you don't like the way I dress, how my hair is, or whatever. You're not my people. There are a lot of people, though, that will stand right by me, and I will stand right by them. And that's the circle. That's the table I choose to be at. It's something that I wish, and I hope, I should say hope, because I think I'm in more of that place. I hope I can teach the younger generation at an earlier point in life than waiting and getting it now. Boy, there's so much that we can save if we can get them younger.
Yeah.
To understand what other people are saying about you doesn't matter. Don't care about it.
Everybody's got an opinion. It doesn't mean it's true.
No.
The opinion's not truth.
Right.
It's only truth if you let it be truth.
Exactly.
And so, I mean, that was one thing. Like, baseball was great at teaching that stuff. I mean, I was very fortunate to have a very good coach at a very young age that gave me a book about the mental side of baseball that taught me the emotional and the mental side and having that clarity. But I mean, the amount of trash talk gets thrown at you, and a lot of you just let it roll off your back.
That's a hard thing for a lot of people, and I do get asked that a lot. It's like, well, how do you not give them power? And I said, you just don't.
You just don't.
But you have to practice it. It is not a snap of the finger, and it's going to happen today. Not if the entire life you were a people pleaser, or you're an introvert and people bully you, or you look a certain way and they think you should look a different way, or you have a job that somebody thinks you should have a different job. Like, you're not enough. You're not enough. I dealt with it. I dealt with it in my part of my news career, where it was me constantly saying, I want to do this, but you have a person who holds you back from it, right? And so never let anybody put you in a corner and try to squash your dreams, because really, ultimately, it is your choice to give them power or not give them power. And watch what happens to the bully when they don't have power. They go to another victim until they don't find a victim any longer, and they're standing alone. And then suddenly they look over here at all these happy people and probably think, okay, what am I doing wrong?
Right.
Maybe I become a little bit more like them. And that my whole mission in life is to eradicate hate.
It's just amazing how much of it there is out there, though.
I know.
And I think, and like I said, it's only gotten worse with social media. I mean, social media has its good and its bad. I mean, I think on the good side, it's made the conversation about mental health brought it to the table.
Yep.
You start seeing more and more. And again, it all goes back to who you're following, but it's brought that to the forefront. But on the backside of it, I mean, you look at some of the posts and comments, you just go to a comment section on any big post, and it's just it's insane.
hate filled.
Yeah,
It's a whole nother level of bullying. Like we can think back when we were kids, there was bullying in person.
Right.
Now it's
And there was
bullying in
physical
person.
consequences with those. So.
Correct. Absolutely.
Right.
But now there's two levels of it. It's that bullying, and then there's the
keyboard.
cowards, keyboards, right? No face. Like they don't let those people even be a part of it. And a lot of people are like, I said, all they want so bad for you to go toe to toe with them.
Right.
Delete them, block them immediately. It's the greatest thing that you can do.
Ignore
Don't
them.
give
Yeah.
them power.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what they want.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of social media, do you think that it seems to me that, fitness kind of, I know that's one of your expertise as well, has kind of almost become like a religion on social media. Do you
has.
think that's helpful or not helpful?
Again, let's go back to Pat. It depends on who you're following.
Yeah.
I choose to follow people and that's the same thing. My list of people that I think are actually good trainers in our area is very small. I hate this. Like I will always be a trainer because of this reason. Zach, let me have your phone for a second. So if I was personal training you and I would say, all right, Zach, this is the exercise I want you to do. Okay, do that. Uh-huh. And I'm doing this and I'm not looking at you. Would you ever come back to me again?
No way.
Thank you. But they do.
No, you're not.
I see because I don't know. There's so many clients that I go, why are you training with that person? I'll go in the gym. I always have to put blinders on and I'll look and I'm like, I can't, I'm trying to save the world, but I've got to do right. I can't constantly be doing it. And I've got to take care of me. So I got to go in and do my own workout, but I will look at these trainers and I'm like, you're either over here trying to hit on somebody, you're looking at somebody else, you are putting them in danger. You're not helping them whatsoever. Why are you in the field?
One of the things that bothers me whenever I go to a public gym, I'll see trainers that don't look like they're following their own advice.
Right.
Exactly.
I'm like,
Right.
I feel like that's your job. You kind of have to, and especially when like that is your job, to people are going to you to look a certain way.
Yep.
I think you should look a certain way.
You got to walk the walk, talk the talk.
Yes.
You should. But
You
that's
should.
why I come back. And when people say, hey, if I can't train with you, who would you recommend? And I'm like, okay, it's a short list, but here are some of the people that I would recommend. And then here are people that I think you should follow online. Otherwise, it's all for the follows. It's all for the clicks. Let me show you this. One of my dear friends who I think is an incredible trainer, she's like, Monica, doesn't it infuriate you of every single video? And we get it, right? They're trying to get guys to look at them. You don't have to show an exercise and show your butt. Do it from an angle and actually show the form of it.
Right.
If you know what you're doing, you don't need that. And then wear the tighter and tighter and tighter. I'm like, oh my God, why are you even wearing any clothes at this point by looking what you're wearing? But
Right.
and then it's become okay. We can do this exercise, and let me try to outdo it. And for what reason though?
Right.
It doesn't even serve a purpose. But to the general public, they don't know that. So they're like, well, I'm going to try that. And then they're breaking bones and they're ending up in ER because of some stupid thing that serves no purpose except for people to get the clicks and the follows.
Right. Yeah.
I feel like you could put that in with pretty much anything now. I mean, I'm seeing it with baseball. There's a hitting instructor out there that has one successful client, Aaron Judge. That's it. And
Really?
he's here in St. Louis, actually. He calls him Teacher Man. He's got this weird hitting philosophy now because Aaron Judge is successful with it. All of these hitting instructors are teaching it, and like nobody's Aaron Judge. Aaron Judge is Aaron Judge. Do you know who Aaron Judge is?
I don't.
Okay. He has led the league in home runs every year for the last few years. He's a young player. I think he's been in the league for maybe 6 or 7 years now.
Okay.
And I mean, he's like 6'6", 6'7". He's a monster.
Yeah.
Just a physical specimen. Like you look at this guy and you're like, holy crap.
Yeah.
He plays
Yeah.
for the Yankees, but like he's a freak.
Right.
He can pull that stuff off.
Because of who he is.
And I see these kids that I coach that are trying to emulate
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
And I'm like, guys, you're swinging through everything. You're swinging under everything. You're missing everything. Let's go back to the basics.
Yes.
And that's the thing
Always,
is
right?
nobody's teaching, like they find this one thing that's a gimmick and then they run with it. And then like, that's the one thing, like my pitching coach has been, he's like my older brother, amazing pitching coach, probably one of the best pitching coaches, probably in the Midwest, if not in the country, because he's not changed a thing. He's kept it simple. He's the basic mechanics that this is what you need to do on every pitch, every time to throw strikes. What you do to get to these positions, however
All
you
goes
want,
back to the basics.
whatever you want to do. But these are the main points that you need to get to.
Yep.
However you get to those points, do whatever you want, whatever you're comfortable with. But you need these points, and that's all he teaches. And it's amazing the amount of talent and stuff that he produces and creates for these young kids. And this is the guy that taught me, that gave me this book that and
And it's life changing, right?
exactly. And so it's incredible, just the gimmicks.
The
Just
gimmicks.
for-
That
just
is the
for-
perfect
for-
way to say it.
for
Yes.
clicks.
For click. My dad, rest his soul, my dad was a football coach for 25 years. So I grew up around, he was a JFL coach, right?
Okay.
And he was all about the basics. And then he also helped with baseball. He helped with my soccer, basketball. But I always laugh because I will see these guys showboating and I'm like, oh my God, my dad is up there just like turning in his grave.
With baseball?
Going, yeah, well,
Oh my
his whole thing
God.
was always catching, God dang it, put that other hand on there.
Two
Stop
hands.
showboating. Yeah, stop showboating. But all the levels of it does go back to the basics. I've been a trainer since 1999, working out myself though since I was 15 years old. And I will always go to the basics. Go old school.
Yeah.
It worked for all of us back then.
for
It worked
sure.
for all the way before me. And then all of the gimmicks that are out there now. My clients will come back, hey, should we do this? I'm like, if you want to, but I'm not going to do that with you.
Right.
Right.
Oh, okay. Let's go back and do some squats. Let's do some push-ups. Let's do core work. All of these things are important. Yes, we can do different angles of stuff. Yes, I can show you some different things, but I'm not going to have you stand on your head and do this. And this is
Right.
so stupid.
Yeah.
Doesn't make
Why
any
are we
sense.
doing it?
It's
Yes.
not going to be better than the basics.
No.
Nothing's going to
No.
beat the basics
Never.
in anything. I
Yeah.
mean, look
Agreed.
at any sport,
Even work. I mean, when I get into a rut with work and I feel like I'm not in control, I'm like always just reset back to the basics.
Yes.
Yeah, same here.
Yep.
Same here. Yeah. Well, Monica, you've interviewed some massive names over all the years. Has there ever been a guest that's completely shifted the way you think about life or success?
There have been people who have disappointed me that I expected them to be a certain way and they weren't. And these were more celebrities. My favorite interview in my life is Reba McEntire. Just
Oh,
her and
cool.
I had a chance to meet her 3 times, but it was the one-on-one with her in New York when she did Annie Get Your Gun on Broadway. And I got to see, and she is exactly, by the way, who you would hope she would be. So here I was backstage and her son Shelby was pretty young at the time. I think he's a driver now in the Indy Lights. And I think he was maybe 7 or 8 years old. And so she's like, in her country, Monica, can you hold on just a second? And I was like, sure. And so I'm watching this and I was like, this is back to being real. This is the real side. This is no put on. I get to see that. It's right there happening in front of me of her as the mother interacting with her son and making sure that he's going to be okay. They're going to be putting him on a plane with whoever was with him at the time. And she's like, all right, honey. And she's like, love you, blah, blah, blah. I watched all this and I was like, I got to see who she really is, right? And then came back, did the interview. Of course, talking about phones, I wish we had our phones back then because I don't have that on video. I have it on audio. But she was authentic. And so I watched that and thought, this is all I want in life. This is the kind of people I want. So whether again, people give so much power to a celebrity. They're just us.
Yeah.
Right.
They just happen to be, blessed with having millions and millions and millions of people following them, singing, whatever. But that was a really incredible moment of my life. I covered sports for 12 years, so I've interviewed tons of athletes from every sport. I've interviewed presidents of the United States. I've been very, very blessed in my career. But it's the people who are fake and cruel and egotistical that live in my memory. Out of class, I won't say who they are.
Sure.
But there was one in particular that she came in and I was like, wow, I will never watch anything you do again because you suddenly think that you're better than everybody. Somebody wanted a picture taken with her and her team was all like, no. And I was like, really? It was for their kid. They wanted a picture. No, they wanted an autograph. And then she just acted like she was, and she's been around for a while. She was an actress. And I was like, she comes across as being the sweetest person, the funniest person, whatever. And I was like, never again. And off air, I'll tell you who it is. But
Sure.
I was like, nope. So to me, I can take all the years in the business and there's standouts in every level of whatever the person did for a living. But the ones that stand out are the ones that are real.
Now, in all the areas that you've done, radio, country music radio, news, and all that, and then all the topics that you covered within the news, was there one topic or one area or segment that was your favorite? Was it sports? Was it?
I love sport. Well, and it's funny because my internship was in sports with our NBC affiliate here in St. Louis. And so I went into doing that along with news in the beginning of my career. And the funny thing is I actually grew up hating country music. I was like, it's twangy. But it was much more bluegrass sounding when I was growing up. Then I'm glad I got into it because I watched the artists we had. And then we had 3 other stations that worked in the building. So one was more of a rock station. One was a sports station. We had country. I forget what the other one was. But it was funny because even the guys at the other stations, they were like, you can tell when the country artists come in because they are so nice and real. And then you had the other guys that had these egos and the way they were dressed. And I was like, I know, that's why I'm happy to be over here. So I enjoyed that. I did news and sports and a mixture of like entertainment stuff and whatever. also when I got over and did my show at Camo X. But everybody used to say, I can tell what you love the most. And I said, why? They said, because you can hear it in your voice, in your inflection. You light up when you're hosting and when you're talking about health and fitness. Health and fitness is everything to me. If we don't take care of ourselves, and you guys get it being athletes, if we don't take care of ourselves and our health and put it first, well, what do you have?
Nothing.
No. So that health and fitness show, I would always go back going, if I could do that visually, that's what I want. And so there's I do like a wellness or a workout Wednesday or a fitness Friday during the show, during my show now. But we did during the pandemic, Monica's Motivational Moments, one of the things I love the most. So that's what would probably stand out, Pat, was, I mean, there's a lot of things. I would have to sit down and think anything else, but I loved what we did because I think it was really changing lives when everyone felt lost during the pandemic. And I have to thank Channel 5 for this. They came to me and said, you got to do what you do best. Give them hope. And I was like, well, what do you want it to look like there? I don't know. Whatever. People come to your page on Facebook, whatever. You put something out there. Everybody always says, I feel like you're talking to me. And wherever it would come from, like I would say my prayer in the morning or meditate, and I'll be like, what should I say today? And then it would just come out of me. And then I would have all these people say, oh my God, I feel like you're talking to me. And I'm like, evidently I am. Or you or him or whatever, whoever it was. And so we started thinking, well, let's put that together into a segment. And then suddenly 2 years in, they just stopped it. And I'm like, why are we stopping it? Like literally just didn't even give any warning. It was just done. And they're like, well, everybody's starting to go back to work. They're going back to the gym. You know, we don't need it anymore. And I go, oh, you missed it. Now more than ever.
Right.
But it was a blessing because if we had continued it, I wouldn't be able to do it now. And so it's a big part of the foundation of my show of always put that motivation out there for, or give them some hope and inspiration. Whatever the wellness umbrella looks like, whatever falls underneath that, I always want to incorporate that. So I think it would be that.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Very cool. I mean, and speaking of Monica's motivation moments, internally, where do you go internally to stay as motivated as you are day in and day out?
Very good question. And it's funny, right as I was walking in to do the show with you, an old friend of mine from WIL, he goes, I don't think I've ever asked you this. Are you ever not in a good mood? And I said, sure, we're human beings, but I don't stay there. Like, do I let things sting? It is very short. Where growing up, and that's why I said earlier, I would love to go back and teach at a younger age to not let it stick with you. I find my own motivation probably going back, like I said, to that 19-year-old. I always go back and talk to her of, you're still here for this purpose. So do we get phone calls of a dear person that is in our life that they've lost their life? Do we have a sickness? Do we have things that pull us down? Yes, but it's how long do you stay down with it? I talk a lot about what we learn from failure, or I want to be remembered for this quote. So this would be on my gravestone. The greatest rewards in life come from the most uncomfortable walk. And think about that. You have to get uncomfortable. You just go through life and you're just, I don't know. People are just floating around and just staying comfortable in life. And I'm like, well, how's that serving you though? So you want a better job, you want a better relationship, you want to be a better father. What are you doing? What are you putting into it? For me, I get up, I don't give you 100%. So if I was your employee, you would be like, dang, every day she comes in and gives me 150 to 200%. I've learned throughout the years, my dad always said, always do your best, so I'll never forget that. He instilled that in me. So did my mother. And then I do that to anyone who listens to me, watches me, my clients that I feel blessed that I am able to personal train or life coach, or if I'm speaking to 10 to thousands, it's what can I leave you with that's going to make you attack your life in a whole nother way? How can I help serve you better than everything that's pulling you down? But again, you have to think of who's in your life that's holding you back. Or for those of you that are going through life and you are just feeling like, oh, here we go again. I hate what I do. I don't understand why you stay in it.
Yeah, why? You're the only one who has control of your life.
Yes.
So why, if you're in a job you hate, or if you're not happy in the relationship you're in, or whatever it is, you're the only one that can change that.
Right. It's a choice. And I understand, like we said before, it doesn't just happen. And there are some people who literally do just take the leap and they have no plan at all. That's not me.
No, I agree.
And you guys probably not either. But there are,
like that.
correct. And if it worked for them, great.
I mean, this was kind of a leap. I will say us doing this was kind of a leap, but we sat down and we mapped out we knew we had to go in with some sort of game plan, but
yes.
But yeah, I mean, yeah, I know that we always talk about it. It's you can make a plan, you can plan forever, but if you're not going to implement it or make the take this first step, it's not, that plan's not worth
Doesn't mean anything. Yeah.
No, so what is that? That's uncomfortable, right?
Yeah.
So you jump in. Does it always work? No. I mean, some of the greatest success stories is failure after failure after failure until it wasn't. And then suddenly when it wasn't, they're the historical ones we talk about.
Right.
There are people, though, that decide to completely upend their life at 40, 50, 60, even 70. I mean, I look at some people in history and I was like, oh my gosh, what we know them for, they started at 70, died at 82, but it was those 12 incredible years that we know about them. And so it's at any given point in time, make the choice. If you've been whatever you have been for 20, 30 years, and you suddenly have something inside. I do a lot of business coaching where I was like, what is the passion that ignites you every day? What makes you get out of bed? It's not this job or that job. What is it? Maybe we uncover a hobby that you had that you suppressed from 20, 30 years ago. And then suddenly you want to make that not a side hustle, but the new thing you go to. I have a real estate agent that she was like, I'll always keep my license. And I'm like, that's the smart thing in you. And she's like, but I'm not going out there and trying to market myself. If some friend or family member comes to me and wants me to do it, okay. But I'm like, she goes, but I'm coming to you for coaching because I need to find what you did. And I'm like, what do you mean? And she goes, that was the gutsiest thing I've ever seen. And I said, what? She goes, walking away from a successful career and then deciding to do what you're doing. And I said, huh. I mean, that lights me up inside to say, I inspired you. She goes, you inspired me to find whatever that is inside of me. And I'm like, great. And so it's hard because then it was like talking to a husband and, whoa, what do you mean? What do you mean? Right. So where's the income coming? And it's scary for me. When I was leaving, my husband went into a little bit of a freak out mode. Right. And he was like, how can you sit there and continue to smile? I'm like, my dad actually appeared to me, even though he's been gone for 30 years, he appeared to me when I was in Cabo San Lucas. Audible, I heard him. And then he just kept showing up every day. And then it was like, I'm like looking for the writing on the wall, looking for signs. And I got really discouraged because I was like, I'm leaving here and I can't find out what this message is. He appeared every single day in the summer of 2022. And then we come back home. It's like 2:00 in the morning and I raise up and I'm like, oh my God, I know what it is. Dogs are barking. My husband's like, what? Like he's sleeping, right? And he goes, you just went to bed and said, you don't know what it is. And I go, I know, he just came to me. And he's like, well, what did he say? And I said, he said, darling, I need you to be ready like you've never been ready in your life. And he's like, well, what the heck does that mean? I go, I don't know, but I'm excited. And so 3 weeks later, the doctor I was personal training for decided to end the program. And then about 2 months later, Channel 5 and I can't come to terms. And that ends. So you hear what's happening?
Yeah.
Money's going away, scared, uncomfortable. All I kept doing was resetting and going back to, all right, my dad's telling me to be ready like I've never been ready. My husband's like, okay, yeah, that's fine. Your dad can be talking to you, but where's the money coming from? And I'm like, I don't know, but you know me and I have resilience. And
I'm going to figure it out.
my dad taught me when I was young, have a backup plan, right? He also used to say, don't always rely on a man. And I understand the guys hear this going, that's where it came from. No, it's independence that we're taught. Yeah. It's not that we don't want you as a part of our life, but being dependent upon someone is a dangerous thing. So we all have to have our own dependence and then we blend together, right? And you take the strengths of both and that's why couples last. But it was have a backup plan, honey. So I decided to have a backup to a backup to a backup. And it was several things. And I said, it's not like I'm not doing anything. I still have my personal training clients. I'm still life coaching. And now 10 years prior, someone had said, you realize you're your own brand, don't you? And I went, oh my gosh. And it came back to me like the rush of the ocean of whatever they said back then didn't make sense at that time. It wasn't my time. Suddenly it became, yeah, Monica, you're an MC, you're an auctioneer, you're a life coach, you're a personal trainer, you do motivational speaking, you're a radio host, TV. What do you want to do with all of that? Make it a brand. I also do design and wardrobe consulting for men. That fashion's been a big part of my life. That's 8 jobs, folks.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
But do I do all of them every single day? Because people are like, you can't do all of them. No, I don't work 8, 10, 12 hours on each one of those. I'm able to now set my own hours, set my appointments, and fulfill myself. And it's a beautiful place to be. I'm going to tell you, though, I am not alone in that. All of you could sit down and start writing going, well, yeah, I do this and I do it well. I want to do something with this. Whether you do it as a hobby to fulfill your soul or you actually do it and it becomes something you teach and it's an income. So it was all of this. And I'm like, thanks, Dad. You opened my eyes.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's a really powerful story.
Thanks.
Very incredible. I'm glad we have you on here. This is
this has been incredible,
yeah.
Monica. I really appreciate
Thanks,
you coming
guys.
in and
Absolutely.
spending time with us. I know you have a very busy schedule, so we don't want to take up too much more of your time. But we always end
we
the show.
should. You've already answered. Answered it. But we're gonna do it again just so you can say it again and we can So You answered it already, what you want on your gravestone. We call it the tombstone game.
Okay.
We play it at the end of everything. We keep it off our questionnaire when we ask, but we call it the tombstone game. Here lies Monica. What's it say on your tombstone?
That's a mantra that I would want to be known for, but I believe it is all she wanted for the world was kindness. And she set the tone for that. And now all we have to do is finish it.
It's
Or
perfect.
continue it, I should say.
It's perfect.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Well, thank you again for
Thank
your
you.
time. This has been phenomenal getting to know you and
Yes.
spending
You
some
as
time
well.
with you. I mean, like you said, we see each other in the hall all
Yeah.
the time, but we haven't really actually gotten to like sit down and chat. So this has been amazing. All you guys out there, check out Monica's show. Like she said, every morning at 7 a.m. on YouTube.
Yeah, we're on Facebook, YouTube, X, Instagram, Rumble, and LinkedIn. So we just keep
it
building
all.
because we know a lot of people don't want to be on social media. So I made sure that we were on YouTube, but then I have people who are like, hey, what about Rumble? I was like, at the time, I didn't know about Rumble.
Yeah.
So I love to build the platforms. And then we drop, the only thing I do that's recorded on Thursday mornings, we drop a podcast on the audio platforms.
Okay.
And we usually take one of the shows from throughout the week, and then we take that and we package it and put it together on Thursdays. But I need you two to come on the show.
Yeah, we'd love that.
Love to.
Yeah.
Love that.
I want
Yeah.
to talk about the importance of manhood, fatherhood, and just how far it goes and how it affects mental, physical, spiritual.
That would be amazing.
Love to.
We'd love to do that.
Good.
Absolutely.
Good. Let's do it.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys for tuning into the show. If you haven't clicked that subscribe button for us yet, please do so. That would help us out a ton. Click that like button as well. Comment what you thought below, and we will see you next time.